Welcome to The Connection Code, a podcast where we explore the relationships that make your life and work just a little bit better.
Hi, I'm Gillman Rischall. I am the founder of 3PR, focused on healthy food brands, and I'm also deeply interested in introductions and making the world a little smaller.
And I'm Jeana Cohen. I've spent more than 13 years building a business that forces adults to make friends through fitness called A Sweat Life. And I'm also building a social gathering and event space in New Buffalo, Michigan called Petite Acres. I am obsessed with friendship and gathering.
So Jeana, our big question today is inspired by a guest that I am so deeply excited about, and we will go into all of that. But Morgan Radford is a soon-to-be author and also an NBC News anchor who is a mom and just somehow manages to do it all and make it look generally effortless. So the question to you is, if you had an abundance of time on your hands, what dream would you pursue?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think it's really interesting because you and I talk about the astronaut connection all the time. I really wanted to be an astronaut. I don't know if it was like a normal unit in the third grade, but my third grade teacher introduced us to aerospace and did this incredible in-depth history of aerospace focusing on women. She was really the best. And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the history of it. I fell in love with the adventure of it. To this day, if anyone says something to me about not pursuing space travel anymore, I will argue for it. Just for the sheer exploration possibilities that we have out there. And who are we as humans if we stop exploring? Anyway, so that's still in me. I think there's part of me that would love to still go to space. In particular, if there were a way to study friendship in space.
Ooh, I feel like this is a niche for you.
Yeah, zero gravity friendship. What happens? But I think I'm just at this point fascinated by aerospace, space travel, and I sort of abandoned those dreams. But also writing. I love to write. I studied journalism in college. I like to ask big questions. And I dabble in this book that I'm working on, but it kind of got pushed to the background when we moved to Michigan and really dug in on the Petite Acres project because that sort of had to be front and center. So I think if I had limitless time, I would sort of carve out what Eve Radsky calls that unicorn space,
Yes.
and just do it and just be creative. But time is limited. What about you, Rachel?
I love your abundance dreams, but I will say you use the most of your time in a way that I can't say almost anyone else does. Like you milk every minute from the day and you get so much done. And I always find it very inspirational as I can move sometimes at turtle pace.
That's really nice of you to say. I don't feel that way myself. I think it's very easy. I talk about this a lot. It's so easy to overestimate how much someone else can get done and underestimate how much you have gotten done. So it's easy to sort of look at someone else and be like, oh my God, she really does it all. When in reality, like, I think if you wrote a list, you did just as much.
Thank you. I love brainstorming what I would do with a surplus of time. I feel like I will be such a good retiree. Like I'm already it's Palm Springs, it's book clubs, it's walks, it's hikes.
Yeah.
But in my dream scenario, I actually really want to be a student again. I love learning about things that genuinely interest me. So if I could go into class mode, I want to take creative writing classes. I want to take art classes, and I want to learn about spirituality in a more intentional, curriculum-focused way. Not just me visiting mediums and reading books about spirituality, which is great, but like to actually take a more course-oriented approach to it. And then the last thought I had is, did I send you that article, maybe in the Washington Post, about what I think was called the Bad Bitch Book Club?
No, but I love it already.
I could be making it up. I think it was called that. But the reason I was so interested is they do retreats. And you
Mm.
normally with retreats, you think like it's a lot of talking and activity and group hang.
Oh, no.
You just go read. You go
Yeah.
with other women who really love books, and you go to cabins and you like lay on boats and you lay out in picnic blankets and you get to have a good time, but like everybody is nose in a book as much as they want to be and nobody interrupts you. So I want to go on a reading retreat.
I actually have been obsessed with the idea of hosting a reading retreat at Petite Acres ever since we started talking about it.
How fast can I volunteer?
Yeah, yes. I mean, now this is it. You're volunteering.
Oh, okay. So we'll talk about Morgan, but
Right.
she has this book coming out. Maybe Morgan's book, which I believe is called Now Then, could be part of our reading retreat.
Amazing. You want to tell us about Morgan? Honestly, Rachel, it was so wonderful to meet her.
We've talked to a lot of impressive people, and I'm
Yeah.
just going to say that Morgan is like upper echelon impressive human. So she's the anchor. She's an anchor of NBC News Daily. She's a correspondent for NBC News. I met her through her doing a piece for the Today Show. She's a graduate of Harvard, also Columbia, and a Fulbright scholar who somehow found this time to write a novel that's coming out this spring called, yes, Now Then. And she's a mom to the cutest, most delicious toddler who I just fawn over on Instagram. So the conversation with Morgan is one of my absolute favorite. And let's dive right in. Hi, Morgan. Thank you so much for being with us.
I am so excited to be here. You have no idea.
I think we might be the most excited. I want to start
We're
by
ecstatic.
paying you a compliment. Also, I should just acknowledge that we've been chatting for 15 minutes before we even got started because there's a lot to talk about. Okay, but here's the
Yeah.
we have so much fun. So the compliment I was thinking about is I realized we met about a year and a half ago at Ciate's offices in Austin. And when you strode in, you had this like radiance and energy about you. And I really respond to people's presence. And I was like, this one, I like her. And so I just think you carry a lot of light. And I wanted to share that with you.
That really means a lot. And I can't tell you how deeply I receive that and appreciate that, especially in this moment.
Oh, well, it's completely true. And Jeana and I often talk about chemistry with people, and you just sort of spark with somebody, or there's something about them that really draws you in. And I felt that, which is why I'm extra honored that you're here. And to interview a journalist is a tall order, being that we are not. But we did think of some questions for you. And
To be
the first
interviewed as
one,
a journalist is a terrifying so to be clear, you are the power holder in this dynamic. I am shook. I am shook.
Just wait for the gotcha questions, Morgan. They're coming.
I'm like, I listen for a living. I don't talk for a living. Okay, let's go.
And I prep other people for interviews for a living. So this is a fun role reversal.
It is fun. Yes. Woo.
So I have this good friend that worked for Lululemon for 20 years, and they would do really interesting career development. And they listened to the speaker that said, when you think about work, do you have a job? Do you have a career? Or do you have a calling? And that always really lodged in my brain of like, where do you sit on that continuum? And in my brain, I think that journalism is a calling because it's really all encompassing and it's really hard. And so I'm wondering how you found your way into journalism and how it sits for you.
That's a great question. I would call it even beyond a calling. I would call it a purpose. And I think those of us who are in the tribe to turn our passion into a purpose, that's a very unique tribe. And I feel like similarly, as you were describing, like we can identify each other. I can identify doctors who live and breathe the purpose and passion of their work. You can see that. I mean, it's a wholeness. And it's funny you asked me that today because I just had a young lady. One of my favorite things to do is mentor, and I had a call from a young lady who like reached out to a producer on LinkedIn, whatever. And so here we are today at 11, and she was a student at Fordham, and she asked me like essentially in so many words, like, how do you maintain hope like in this moment in this industry for those of us who want to do it? And I told her, I was like, this is the moment we were meant for. If you love this work, if this is in fact your calling, you were built for this moment. This is why we got into this profession for this moment. We are proof of why the fourth estate matters. So this moment should thrill you. if you're in the right place and this is your calling. And she was like, you are the most optimistic journalist I've ever talked to. And I'm like, but it's because I believe it. And I've also said, any kid I've ever mentored will tell you, this industry is too hard and it is too difficult, especially now in this environment, to do it if you don't love it. You don't initially make enough money, and the environment just isn't soft enough, right? Like it is a culture of rejection. So like those of us who made it are here because of one yes. It only takes one yes to change your stars. And those of us who are still standing are here because of one yes. And sometimes we had to make the yes, right? And so, you know, I tend to feel optimistic about this industry because I truly believe in what we do. And like, it sounds hokey, but this is like the lifeblood of, you know, what I do. Yeah, sorry. I like get on my soapbox because I think it's meaningful and I think it's important. And I think at the end of the day, it is our job to serve. And that service has never been more needed than now.
So interesting. The way you talk about that, Morgan, Rachel hears me talk about TV a lot. My love language is TV shows. Did you watch the Aaron Sorkin show, The Newsroom?
I did when I was younger.
Yeah. We don't have to talk about that show a ton, but I think that the first episode of the show has this moment of sort of a call to arms that you sort of just said, where the question was raised, like, why is America so great? And the whole speech is given around like, it's not, but it can be. It was that same message of hope, and it's so wonderful to hear it from you as a working journalist today, because things have changed so much. And to ask a totally different question, I think within the career of journalism is this curiosity, which you talked about, how you listen for a living, you ask questions for a living, but also because you're so public facing, there's a curiosity about your life, and you've made some choices to share things like fertility, etc. So I'm curious, like, how have people connected with you over that, and what has been the support you've received?
The support has been overwhelmingly positive, but I think that connection is part of what I think service is, right? Like, I historically, you know, my parents are both originally born in West Virginia, and they both come from different kind of cultures and backgrounds, and frankly, avenues even brought them to this country. But I was always aware. I went to a public school in North Carolina for high school, and they always taught me, like, your job is to love the world even if the world doesn't love you back. Every time I found myself, multiple times, in systems that were not built for my inclusion, they taught me the only responsibility I had was to reach back and make room for others. And that has been the guiding tenet of my life. And part of doing that is transparency. And this moment when journalism is under attack, when there are so many questions and allegations of fake news, and frankly, our industry, and I say that entre comillas, in quotation marks, has become more porous, because now you have people with a video camera and a cell phone saying, you know, I'm a journalist, which I would argue there's like an ethical system and an ethical training that a lot of us who do this professionally must go through in order to sort of adhere to the standards of journalism that are a collective standard generally. That every chance I get, I show how the sausage is made. That's why I do that on my Instagram. You'll see me say, hey, look, this is a tracking mic. I'm walking into the tracking booth. This is where I give the producer my voice. Hey, I'm, you know, looking for edge control in a storm in a CVS in Kingston, Jamaica, because Hurricane Irma just hit, right? Like, I'm doing that so you see, you know, the service, but also the personal sacrifice, right? Like, one day I had this sort of like ultra conservative voter who stopped me while I was reporting at the time for an MSNBC hit in front of Trump Tower during the first administration. I think just ahead of the first administration. And they were like, you know, I like you, but you're fake news. And I don't believe any of the fake news. And I was like, wait a minute. And I remember in real time, I said, sorry, do you think you think I'm fake news? She's like, well, I do like you. I do. But, you know, all of y'all are fake news. And I was like, do you think I left my family and like I've been living out of a suitcase for 12 days just so I can tell you what to say to me? How did this conversation start? Did I ask you, did I tell you what to say, or did I ask you your opinion? Well, you did. I asked you, what do you think? And I'm not editing this. This is live television. Like, giving people a chance to see how it's made. So when I think about, sharing a fertility journey or sharing how I plug up my tracking mic, that is all in service of transparency so that we can learn to trust our neighbors, not just love our neighbors. How do you love someone you don't trust? So it's for me giving us the opportunity to trust our neighbors.
Oh, I could listen to you all day long. Literally. Yes.
My husband's not. He's like, girl, can you tighten it up? Because we've had a long day. Like, can I get the VO version of the story? Because you gave me a packet and a tag.
He's using the right vernacular, though. At least he knows he's doing it in your language.
Right.
I know. My husband just always wants to say less, Rischall. Just fewer words. But I have to go backwards. I loved all this, but I want to moonwalk to your initial answer about it takes one yes to launch a career or to break into journalism. What was your yes?
I think it was, I talk about her so many times. I'm literally going to, when we hang up, I'm going to reach out to her because I talk about her all the time and she has no idea how much I talk about her or that I even consider her my yes. There's a woman named Nancy Hahn, and she worked at ABC News at the time. It was my first job out of graduate school. And, I had been brought on. The head of talent at the time said, I'm going to put you on air, promised to put me on air. And I turned down another job to get my first. I always tell kids, like, you got to just do the thing. Like, you got to stop aspiring and remove aspiring in front. So if you got to go to Biloxi, Mississippi to, get on air, if you got to go to Juneau, Alaska, all of which places I applied and rejected, like, you got to just go and do the thing to get on air. And so this woman who had the then talent manager at ABC had said, I'll put you on air. But it was so I did it. I signed on with her. But she had it, and I had only a year contract. And so I went to Nancy Hahn, who was running the digital unit at that time. And a friend of mine who was on air said, hey, they're going to need more help because someone's going to go maternity leave and they're going to need more, assistance. So I went to her and I said, how can I help? Like, I will write scripts. I will, like, how can I just want to get my shot. And she gave me my first shot. My first shot was not from the woman who made the prompt. She was the one who completed. Like, she's a woman who, like, I'm trying to think of the word, like the analog, fulfilled. She is the one who fulfilled the promise that another woman made. And I'll never forget her. Like, I feel like I'm going to cry talking about Nancy Hahn. She pulled me into her office every Friday on her lunch break and she helped me write. And I hope I don't get her in trouble by saying this, but I'll never forget her saying, she's Korean American. And she said, you have to be good. You have to be good. And there was so much in that, like, you have to be good so that we can all be seen as good. Like, we can't miss. You have to be good. And she made sure that I was excellent. And she gave me my first job to be on air, and she went through my scripts. And I remember even coming home from Atlanta and my hair looked like crazy. And she was like, ooh, no. Ooh, what did we do? What did we do? Like, let's fix that. And even to have the cojones to say, like there's no win in that for her, right? Like, in this day and culture, someone probably would have sent you to, like, HR, could you comment on my hair, right? Like, she took a risk to for what I see, to love me, to guide me, to make me excellent, to give me an opportunity. And I got my first time on air. So she, to me, is who I consider to be my yes.
Morgan, I don't know if you noticed, I teared up as we were saying this because everybody needs a Nancy. And I'm an easy cry.
And now I'm feeling guilty because Nancy, I swear, I don't think Nancy even knows she's my Nancy. And I saw her husband actually works at CNBC, and I saw him at a Christmas party, and I was like, he was like standing beside Andy Cohen, and I was like, hi. But Scott, like, hi, you're Nancy Hahn. And he's on air, and I was like, you're Nancy Hahn's husband. And it's like, I'm sure he's like, that's not usually what people like say. And I'm like, I like you on CNBC this morning, and I was like, you're Nancy's husband. And I told him what she meant to me, but, like, I need to pick up the phone and call her, because when you are someone's Nancy, like, that changes the marrow of someone's life. When you believe in them and you take a risk to invest in them and you see them. I mean, she saw me. And all I needed was someone to see me, and she saw me.
Will you promise me that you reach out to Nancy?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why.
Well,
I read this New York Times article that we talked about on the podcast about the power of people connecting with someone deep in their early years and saying a belated thank you note for the role that person played. So I tracked down my AP Calc teacher from high school who poured so much energy and effort into me as a very bad math student who should have never been in the class to begin
Oh
with. But she
my God.
like committed to pulling me through an entire year of calculus where I was drowning.
I
And I
love
found her and I sent her a thank you note. And she wrote me such a beautiful note back. And it was like a 30-year later closure. And so I want you to have that with Nancy.
I want that you know what? Maybe I need to make that my Nancy Hahn hour is like my Fridays
Yeah.
at that time. I write letters. There's been a lot of people, even though she is the yes that I think of, I've had a lot of other forms of support. And I think like honoring that is really important. I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
Yeah. I shared this with Rachel once too. I had a friend who used to do, instead of a gratitude practice, like a gratitude list practice, he would actually do a practice of just expressing gratitude via email to people, just like you're saying. Like one day a week, he would just write an email to someone, and it could be big or small. He maybe had to reach for it, or it could be gigantic, like you were the person who changed my life. But he said it was even more impactful to him than just a gratitude list.
Wow. I love that. I love the entire practice of like gratitude and mitzvahs. I think the two together just like they ground us in a daily, spirit. They ground us in the right countenance to face our day.
Yes. And I think when things are hard, and this will be the last thing I say, I promise, but I think when things are hard, if
never
you
stop, Rachel.
Thank you, Jeana.
Yeah.
Says my husband, never.
Both of us were like, yeah, tell our husband.
I'm being unfair. He's wonderful. But I think when things are really hard, which I would call this moment extremely hard, telling people what they mean to you and why you're grateful, and then hearing from people how you made an impact and your fingerprints still live on their life is the best feeling. Like I cherish and save every thank you note, or every time somebody says this introduction you made was really impactful. Thank you. Or like you taught me to do this thing and it's carried me through. I love that so much. And then I, in turn, am like, who can I tell that they helped me with math, or I got my first job, or I was really struggling with something in my parenting, which is the theme of every day, but they gave me some really well-timed advice. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love this.
In the intros to your podcast.
Yeah. Yes.
You're already doing it.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's beautiful.
I want to ask Morgan, because there is also obviously so much of your career has been built by relationships. You have your Nancy and all of your Nancys in your life who've helped you, but also you're meeting people every day to tell their stories. So I'm curious if there was ever a moment where you just were stopped dead in your tracks, or something just really inherently shifted for you based on an interview or a point in an interview that you sort of heard.
In terms of my perspective, or shifted my life, or shifted kind of anything?
Any of the above. Any of the above. Your life, your reporting, any of it.
Yeah, actually, there was a story I think about that I think shifted my perspective on motherhood. Long before I was ever a mother, long before I was engaged, long before I reconnected with my husband, all that. I was very single, and I had just started this work, and this work is like your first few years of a course as a correspondent at any network are like boot camp, and they like really, they really put you through it. It's like, I think it's like akin to like professional hazing, and it's really tough. And yes is the only answer. It should always be the answer in your career, but like you're saying yes to some pretty impossible circumstances, and you're living out of a suitcase. So it was really hard for me to connect. And I'm someone who thrives on like intimate connections. And I'm actually pretty like introverted, which I think is, it might be shocking if you saw me on TV. It's not shocking when you're like, oh, she wrote a book. That's a lot of hours. Like that's a very like introspective space. And I was in that period of my life where I was like traveling all the time, and I like couldn't date because I couldn't keep a date on the calendar. I was in a different city every day, and I was living between LA and New York. And I got assigned to a Weekend Today show story about an Afro-Latino kid who was adopted by a family that he played basketball with in high school. And when I went to interview the family, they were pitching this story to me when they assigned it, essentially like, it's like The Blind Side, but basketball, right? So that's like kind of the headline they were giving me. And when I went in, like the brothers are excited to talk, and like the dad's excited to talk, and just a really warm family. And the mom just was like very reticent to do the interview, to have her adopted son do the interview. And I could just feel it. And then when we finally sat down, and she was the last one, you know, she was kind of giving me these like one word answers. Like she wasn't giving me a ton. And finally I just look at her and it like all made sense. And I said, "Oh, Miss Julie, you're scared." I'm like, "You want to protect him. You're afraid of what could happen when all of this happens and airs. And this is what your love looks like. You're protecting him." And all of a sudden tears spring to her eyes and tears spring to my eyes. And you see it like all on camera. And she's like, "Yeah." Like essentially, again, I'm like paraphrasing, this is many years later, but she was like, "He deserves dignity." Like, even though I like, yes, adopted him, like his mom deserves dignity. His birth mom deserves dignity. Like he deserves dignity. Like, yeah, I don't want this story where it's like no one's unwanted here. And like, I even got chills now because it was like, and ever since that moment, I've thought very seriously about adoption. I don't know anyone personally, like in my family or anything, who's been adopted. And frankly, in a lot of Black families, like we're taking care of like, other, cousins and whatever. And like, so we're very much, my family especially, like very like village oriented, and we're very, very tight. So that you're like unofficially assuming a lot of like nurturing roles. So I don't know a lot of people who are like officially adopted. And ever since that, I just remember thinking how expansive it must be to be a mother. Like you understand, and I certainly understand now, having given birth to my child, like what a primal love that is. But imagine what love with no boundary. Imagine a love that is chosen. Imagine a love that says, "You're my puzzle piece and I'm your puzzle piece, and the cosmic world, the universe, and every iota of this, the millennia that have brought us here, brought us together." Like, can you imagine a more expansive love? Can you imagine a way of belonging and seeing and being chosen in that way? Like, that's, to me, like, is there a higher calling as a human being? I really wonder, right? And so that's always been on the forefront of my mind. I think one thing that just really affirmed me about my husband, we met in uni, but part of it is in my book that, we didn't date for very like obvious reasons. He was dating a best friend of mine. Pew. But whoopsie. Then later we connected, 12 years later. And like, that was so affirming. I was like, "Hey man, like I was thinking about this. Like, how do you feel about this?" And he's an only child and he's half African. So he wanted like a bevy of kids. I'm like, number one, bro, like this uterus is dusty. So I don't know how many kids you think you're getting out of this like 37-year-old womb. But he was like, "Yeah, I'm open." And him being open. And I said, "Look, I don't think I have the money, frankly, to like go and do this like some legal way, but I want us to be open. So when the circumstances and the cosmic, like, we're going back to Cuba and some primo lejano says, 'Morgan, I need this,' or we're back in Lagos for your family." Like, I just want us to be ready. And there was a big world event that happened very recently. And I was nursing my child. And all I could think about as this particular war broke out was the mothers. Like, who would give my child milk? Who would give my child milk? Like, who would sustain them? And I started reaching out like privately to like these World Aid organizations on WhatsApp. Like, can I get my breast milk? I was trying to ship my breast milk to this part of the world when this was happening. And then I was calling friends who are from that particular culture, asking, what would it be like? Am I helping or hurting? And a friend of mine in that culture was like, "Look, according to our customs, like, we prefer it to maintain in the culture. And if you give breast milk to that child, then you are considered a parent and a nurturer." So like, I remember calling my husband being like, "Hey, I think this might be the moment. If there is an opportunity where we can start," and he was like, "Bet." And when he just said that, I called him on a commercial break in the bathroom. This man, I'm like, "Dog, I'm about to change your life. And I'm about to bring home a child." And when he was like ready with me, I was like, your heart is so big, as if I didn't know from the way my husband treats me so well. Like, if you ask me my favorite thing that I'm most proud of in my life, it's like the way my husband and I treat each other. And he just treats me so well. And like the fact that he was also just like ready, I was like, man, I picked the right person. But that took me to that place. And who knows what the future has for me and my family,
Are you about to adopt? Is that the takeaway?
I have no idea. I wish I had in that moment. That moment I actually couldn't do it because of more of the laws that we were talking about. And I'm happy to do that. Like here, I'm like, if there's a, like maybe in Brooklyn that I, come across and like, that's in need. Like I'm not like, I wasn't seeking this, part of the world, or like, it doesn't need to be, it just, that particular circumstance had happened in that moment when I still had physical like nourishment in my body with breast. So I just, no, I honestly wish I could have in that moment. And I wasn't probably in a place prepared to. I had a newborn baby, but I felt very ready. And who knows, but that's my point, is that story. I had never seen an example of that love. And I have never seen an example since, and I'm still keeping in touch with that family, Miss Julie, and Mr. Michael and their kid.
If you're listening and not seeing the video,
thank you.
Jeana and I have both cried, and Morgan, you are plucking every emotional string. Yeah. I mean, waterworks over here. That is so beautiful. And one small question, because I'm trying to wrap my head around this. When they adopted this basketball player, was he in high school at the time?
He was in high school. I think he was a freshman, if I'm not mistaken. Looking back, like maybe it could have been maybe one of his last years of middle school, but I was there. I was interviewing while he was in high school, had not yet gone to college. And now he's now since been married, because we're all friends on Facebook now. He just got married and like built a family of his own, right? Like it was just such a beautiful, and they still write me, like they were so sweet. But they seeing that mother in that moment, I think, I mean, it did just completely change my perspective on the expansiveness of motherhood.
And the reason I asked his age is, what I think is even more remarkable is it's not stepping into an adoption situation where you're taking over from the get-go, right? Like, here's a baby and it's going to be your style of parenting and your lessons and your nurturing and your home, and you're doing everything you can to sort of move this child through into their adulthood. If you're at the end of middle school, you're in high school, whatnot, like this person is formed, and the best you can do then is provide love and shelter and bolster them, but you're not starting from scratch. So I feel like that love is even more incredible, because you're saying, I accept you as you are. I'm welcoming you as you are. I'm here for you as you are. Yes. Like you have a home here.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're wanted. You belong. I mean, that's really just like touching me on such a deep level. I can only imagine how he felt to have this family say, we have created a space for you in this family. Come on in. I have a good friend from growing up who had a really hard family situation. And in high school, his then girlfriend's family took him in and he lived with them for a big chunk of high school. And I was explaining it to my kids recently. Something came up and that the story kind of came up, and I was trying to delicately explain how people can be chosen family and how people can show up and open their hearts and homes to people that aren't actually their children. And that's great. And it's okay. And here's how it looks. And my daughter goes, but who paid for him? And I was like, well, that's a little specific. I don't know the financial details, right. But I think it's great to demonstrate that there's lots of forms of love, and that God bless the people that can say, I have room for you.
I love it. It's human.
Yes. I think you should have a bevy of kids, because I feel really good about your child rearing.
I got a lot of love to give. And this is the most fun I've ever had.
I want to throw out that I think you just unlocked something in my brain. So this story, and this is a little personal and whatever, but the story that you just shared about this interview unlocking this potential of like what motherhood can mean. My husband, I'm 2 years older than you. I'm 39. My husband and I have put off having kids forever. And I've had this sort of block around, like, what does it mean to be a mother? Like, can it be expansive for my life? And the way you just phrased it was such a remarkable
Can I
way.
Interrupt you? May I interrupt you? That's not the headline. That's what she unlocked.
Give it to me.
The headline is, having a child is the most healing thing I have ever done. No one ever tells you, one, how much fun it is. Everyone's like, oh, you're not going to sleep. It is the most fun I have ever had, but it is the most healing thing I have ever done. I think if you're like a cogent person and you're introspective and you're just like thoughtful, you're going to approach any new scenario being like, how can I like make this better or avoid mistakes? Like I grew up in a great home with a great relation with both my parents. And yet there are still things that like, sure, I want to like be mindful of and do maybe distinctly a function of my age or generation, right? Like we all have tweaks. No one ever told me you could get it right. No, like I had all this angst about like, oh my God, like what if, and I don't know, what if I like repeat these, like, no, like what if you have a child who looks at you like you hang the moon? And what if you have this really natural bond? And what if you create a chutzpah and chispa and this just spark in a child that is all the good things in the world that is, and is protected and it's pure? And what if you get to raise a badass chingona daughter and the world that tries to beat out the ambition and make it palatable? And what if you like, the world has tried to temper my ambition, say I don't belong in certain spaces, say I don't fit in this, say because, I'm animated, it can look aggressive because I'm Black, all kinds of shit that the world can put on the purity of our intentions and actions. That's the world's shit, man. What if you create this child who gets it right and like screw the world, and the world can't touch that? Like what if it is so healing to see that it is like, and the second thing, and I swear I'll stop, is that
Never.
my dreams came in Technicolor after I had her. That was like at our age, I think there's like our lives are good. Like we good out here. Like have a great relationship with my husband. We were like, are we sure? Like I said, because he wanted a bevy of kids. I was like, I think I definitely did, but like, let's just be sure. Like, I think a lot of hetero couples don't stop and ask. I think it's just like the norm. And so you don't, and I'm like, we should just have like two discussion, like why? And he's like, all the reasons why. And I was the only thing I was worried about is like, it is a sacrifice. Like I like sleep, like you're probably not going to sleep that much. Like, can I still do all the things and be of the world in the way that I want to be? Girl, I am so much more of the world. My dreams are so much bigger and I am so much more productive and so much more. It's like I developed like a third eye. Like my book was this function of my life and like whatever. And it all happened because my husband, sleep trainer, and I sat in this here home goods chair and started click clacking away and like created a whole new thing, like a whole new artistic expression. And like, I'm telling you, like, and that's not to proselytize. Like, if you don't want kids, you don't want kids. But I just don't ever want someone to be scared about that option or what it could mean. And it is, I mean, of course, it's a one-way door, girl. Like, you ain't going back. Like, I'll be clear about that. It is like the door to fucking Narnia. Like, it is so much fun. It is so much fun. Okay, I'm stopped. Technicolor. Just remember, Technicolor and healing. Just keep that on the top of your mind.
I'm sold. Wait, we need to ask you about the book. Otherwise, I'm just going to make you be my Nancy for having children.
Oh my God. We love a Nancy. We stand a Nancy.
Morgan, there's going to be a real big debrief after this conversation between Jeana and I.
I'm between my husband and me. Like, okay,
that too.
I'm
Justin
ready.
also should be part of this.
Yeah.
Yes. Wait, Morgan, can I go back to one little thing you said that I think is so interesting? And then, Jeana, we'll get the book for sure, because I'm obsessed with the book.
I mean, we have to.
This is literally like, you are not my PR agent. We do not even have to talk about books if you don't want to.
Well, no,
we
I'm
absolutely have to.
Obsessed.
And the only reason I talk about the book is because I think it's a symbol of that, of the Technicolor. And I think every woman needs to know, every person needs to know that they can expand. It's not even a pivot, it's an expansion, but as you were.
You're talking to two voracious readers who idolize authors. So it was never not going to be a topic. Like, that's been on my list forever. You're talking about how parenting can heal you, right? And I'm so interested because you have a 2-year-old and I have twin 11-year-olds. And what I told my husband I'm finding really hard right now is I'm like reliving middle school. Like they're going through it and it's bringing up for me a lot of what I didn't love about those in between years. And it feels very emotionally porous. Like I'm carrying their feelings and my feelings all at once. Are you feeling like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the healing right now is that you're going back to early childhood and putting in place structures or ways of being that you might have really loved or that are meaningful to you? I guess I I feel not so healed right now, which is why I'm inspired by your healing.
No, I love that. I think that's honest. No, I would not say that. I don't even like associate with early childhood. What I think of, for example, is the clearest example I can give you is like, I'm super, to my point about politeness we were talking about earlier, like that's such a big thing for my kid. My number one thing is just her emotional well-being. Like that is like the God to which I pray. And, I think part of that is perhaps shaped from my own experiences of being excluded. I have known the pain of unbelonging. I'm a Black person of mixed race who grew up in the South and came here to New York and work in a really tough industry. And I like when you were describing the things about middle school, the adjectives you were using, I see that now with grown women. I see that now where it's like this kind of like girl gang, like he said, she said, like, I'm going to treat you based on what my friend heard about you. I mean, it is like, to me, that is not the way that like healed whole people behave. But I've had to keep my own counsel and like stand because I've known this before. Like, again, I was the only Black kid for many years in my school. I had all like this like multiplicity of worlds inside me and worlds that I had come from that I've always navigated. But I think that's what makes me love the world so much. But again, going back to the beginning, like my parents did prepare me as like, brown people from the South, like the world won't always love you this way. Just because you're ready to go to prom with, Billy Bob doesn't mean Billy Bob and his parents are comfortable with Billy Bob taking you prom, right? Like, and so those were some tough conversations. So I think it is from that place that there's an awareness. But what it means that I do with it and what looks differently is I was literally talking to my daddy about this on Friday when I saw him, is that I always want my child to know that she is liked here. We all know that our kids are loved, right? Like, or we tell them like you're loved here. I want you to know you are liked here. And there was a line I read.
Michelle Obama.
In Michelle Obama's mother's obituary. Now I'm going to tell myself I have not read her book, so I don't know if it was in the book. But I remember
it was in the book, but that's okay. You're busy.
I saw it when President Obama tweeted the obit, and there was a line in there that just like I can never unsee, where essentially, and again I'm paraphrasing, she was like, my mom raised us like, it doesn't matter if they don't like you out there, we like you in here. And I just remember thinking how powerful, like my parents like showed me, I'm literally best friends with my dad. I was late to our call, so I was talking to him on the phone. Like we talk all the time. And so I knew I was like, right, I was shown it, but like, I want my generation and my little like millennial hippie self, like I want to name it for my child so that, like if Becky Sue and Billy Bob tell you that like they don't like your hair or they don't like your Spanish or they don't like whatever, like guess who likes you? Guess who loves you? And guess who likes you right here? And like all the people in this house, all the village who laid hands on you, we like you. And so it's like, that's what I mean. It's like, I don't know that I'm even directly tying it to like an experience of rejection. I have known that pain and I know how searing it is. I know how lasting it is. And I still feel that pain. That's why when you gave me that compliment beginning, I was so touched because like, I had a hard moment last week where someone just did something really mean. It was just really mean and really unkind. And like, I'm just kind of taught that like what I do is you just deal with it stoically and you like don't make any waves and you just like kind of try to be small. And it's painful. And I'm still trying to figure out how you navigate those things as a grown woman, right? And it's a space where I still walk in many spaces where I am one of one and where you can't say, this has a tinge of, this smells a little like, I don't have anyone to say that to, right? I feel like, and so like you don't have one necessarily who can. That's why it's so important when you do find people who can walk with you and understand and be empathetic and love thy neighbor. So I think it is from that place that I'm just really mindful of my child. Like I'm always leading with questions, like every day, like. ¿Cómo te fue la escuela? How was school? Like, ¿con quién jugaste? Who did you play with? Like, ¿cómo te sientes? How she's bien. How do you feel? I feel good. Like, there's always just like a very, I always keep a very close pulse on just her emotional life, because that to me is very important. So that's more what I mean about just healing,
That was a beautiful explanation. And I hear it. Thank you.
I hear a lot, like a theme of of belonging too, and like wanting to cultivate a sense of belonging at home, which I think is really beautiful. And Rischall, I feel like you probably were thinking about this too, the likability trap.
Do you know Alicia Menendez?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had her on and had a whole talk about that impossible needle to thread.
Yeah, totally. I couldn't agree more.
So I don't want to take a negative and turn it into a positive. I do want to know, sort of, in situations where maybe you feel like you don't belong, or you feel like you're being treated like you don't belong, who are you turning to? Are there people who you kind of can go to in your life who make you feel like you have a village too, the same way you're doing with your daughter?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in it. And I've been asking, I'm in it. I've been asking that question, I think, of myself, and I think it's recently. And it's funny. I just think about how so many people did this before me. And like, I think that I pull from that in a, like, my cultural identity, I feel like, is almost akin to some people's like religious identity. Like, I pull from the strengths of the ancestors. Like, my mom has like a telltale, Southern history of like, black and white mixing and part Jewish from the South that, is or isn't claimed. And my mom literally looked at me one day and was like, girl, all your people been enslaved. Like, like all of them. Like, they did not go through that so that you could sit here and like cry in the corner about like Sally Sue. Like, that is just not like, Sally Sue is a luxury. Like let Sally Sue's chisme be like the worst thing that you deal with today. And so I say that not to like diminish, but I do think it's like an important reality check, right? Like, and so I literally do remind myself, my mom similarly, like, she reminded me when that really kind of ugly thing happened. She was like, Morgan, I was like, Mom, like, who can I even say that this happened to? Like, they're not even going to believe me because there's no one who can even have a mind towards like the empathy of this and like the texture of this and the unspoken component of this. And she was like, Morgan, like, you don't think they messed up Jackie Robinson's bats before he went to play and like hit it? Like, you don't think they did, like, you don't think we've seen this before? Like, it is to me a reminder that everything we're doing now is truly like on the backs of the unseen labor of people who have done this before. So for me, it's reaching into the quiet sisterhood of like being vulnerable. I mean, the risk of vulnerability is embarrassment for sure, but like the reward is connection. So if you can be vulnerable and say, like, I had this moment and I have a like acquaintance who, like, I think in this conversation became a deeper friend. And I was like, didn't want her to think less of me or like that I was beleaguered because I was having this like difficult problem. And so I was like, is she gonna think I'm like weird that I'm like dealing with this? And literally the first word, but I said it because I was like, I think this happened to you. Just from what I've seen, like, I think this has happened to you. And she was like, yes, it happened to me. Like, of course it happened to me. And like, and I was like, how did you survive? Like, what reservoir did you, and like hearing how they survived, hearing what podcasts they listened to, hearing like what elders they went to. So for me, like the elders and the village and risking that vulnerability to like tap into your village. And like, that's sometimes that's what tapping in looks like. Sometimes tapping in isn't like bringing the collard greens to Thanksgiving. Sometimes tapping in like looks like, I need to show you this like shame, this thing that brings me shame, whether it should or not. Like, I'm struggling and I'm ashamed that I'm struggling and I need your help. And I think for me, it's always like the aunties. It's always the people who have like been there and can be like, baby, we've seen this. You don't even have to finish that sentence. I've seen this before. And I'm really lucky that I have a mom who's walked like a very similar path, she's incredibly warm. And so it's funny you seeing it we've talked about it as a perspective of a mother, but I also saw this as a perspective of a daughter, where my mom, like, she is very warm. She's incredibly capable. Like, she's super bright, but she's capable. Like, that intelligence has impact and it has output. And I've seen the way the world treated her. I mean, I grew up again in this like Southern town and she would travel a lot. And I'll never forget this woman stopping my dad in the grocery store. She's like, I see Lily's not with you today. And he's like, oh, like, hey, Karen. Yeah, no, I'm just out here picking up my gala apples. And she was like, well, Lily's gone. Does she even tell you when she leaves? Does she even tell you when she leaves the house? Like, and I just remember being like, I was probably like 7, but like clocking that like something was not normal about this. And like the way that you would like speak on, and he's like, Karen, we're good. Like, we're right good. Like, and so even seeing the way that she kind of handled so much with grace, and then got her like extra gust, when she was, I think, in her 50s, and she had this amazing job and built an even more amazing job on her own, CEO of her company, and made more money. So it's like, I have this path. I've seen the blueprint of women who can rise above, and it's not about having a dream, it's about building a dream. And that's what watching my mom taught me.
Oh, I remind myself of this sometimes, that even if I don't know it, the way I'm moving through the world is affecting my kids. Like, I'm not going to know until later what's formative, what sticks with them. But like, even when they're complaining, like, you're on your computer a lot, or why can't you pick me up at this thing? I'm like, I hope that they're seeing that I'm running a company so that I can model for them some really amazing stuff later in life, and also feed their shopping addictions, which hit real hard in middle school. So brace yourself, because, oh my God.
Drunken elephant the kids talk about, or something like that, all that stuff.
There will be no fancy skincare, but just watch out for AV donation.
They're going to ask about skincare fridges soon, Rischall, if they don't already want one.
Jeana, that conversation has been had. Morgan, I have so many things I want to talk to you about, but to be mindful, let's talk about your author journey. And also, I want to draw a dotted line and see if it fits for you too. I sometimes think that for people who are feeling big things or going through something that's hard, the safest and most welcoming space is imagination. And to be creative and to write and to create your own world is just like the best reprieve. So I think those two things can live together. And I want to hear about the inspiration for your book. And then from a jealousy standpoint, I want to understand how you literally wrote a book when you're the busiest person.
Oh, man. Look, to answer your second question first, it was a joy. It was therapy. I have never had more discipline about anything in my life. And you are talking to someone who wrote like 2 theses and like, was very into like their academic life. I have never had the discipline around anything, not around training for like running or physical, like nothing. That I had around this book, and it did not feel like work. It was a joy every single time. Like, I sat in this chair, I would, and bless my husband, like really support. I have gone away, I think 1 weekend every month by myself. I never traveled by myself because I travel so much for work. Like, why the hell do I want to be in a hotel room by myself? Absolutely. I will go to my parents' house. I did that, I think last weekend, the weekend before, by myself, and just like lock myself in a room. I've done it in like every hotel and every, and I'm disciplined and I'm focused, because I think the first editor who talked to me about this project, she said, Morgan, I think you have something to say. Like, it's fiction, but I think you have something to say. I think you have something important to say. And I had never thought of it like that. The story was, it's funny. They're like, is this based on your life? I'm like, yeah, it's a girl named like Morgan Radford, like essentially. Lots of it is not my life. There's lots of like, honestly, hard pieces in the book that did not happen to me. But the pieces that are, it started from a guy who I had this very Indian British student, grad student. He was in his postdoc fellowship when I was at Harvard. And we had this very like amorous friendship, relationship, whatever. And he was the product of arranged marriage, and I was the product of a brown girl from the South. And seeing these 2 kids it's one of the things I will love about university systems, and I think they can get really right. I know universities are sort of the front line of a lot of questions we're having right now in this sort of like political environment. But one of the most sacred things I think that universities can do is they can take a kid from, a single parent household in Hawaii and make a president. Mm-hmm. And I think there's just like really something really sacred about that. And I think here's this kid from Yorkshire, England, whose father is a shopkeeper and the product of an arranged marriage, and this girl from a public school in North Carolina who had never met anyone who went to Harvard. And here we meet on this grassy knoll and like totally see each other. And to your point, have this sense of belonging. And so what does that look like? And like, how do you, question all those things? And the real life person reached out to me 3 months after I got married. And it was like this like kind of stunning conversation that I was like, oh, I didn't think anything of it. So I'm like, oh, I'm telling my husband, can I, get coffee? And he kind of like has this 12-year closure. But I remember, not to spoil anything, when I walked away, I remember being like, I'm a voracious fiction reader, but like, I also love music. I'm never going to like pick up a drum set. Like no one needs to hear me, bang on some tambores. But I walked away and I was like, if there were ever like a romantic comedy, a romantic, not like this, and how we as women think about all these lives we've lived up until now, where do we put that? Like, where do we put that type of love in our current sort of like life and reality? What do the vestiges of it look like? And so I was asking all those questions, and like out came this book, and it's just been one of the most incredible like professional artistic joys. And I discovered that I need art. I did not know that I needed a creative outlet as like a third of my happiness pie, and I do.
Eve Rodsky calls that your unicorn space. Creativity. Yeah, it's often, so the way that Eve Rodsky phrases it is it's essentially creative space or just anything to bring you joy in a household, especially like heteronormative households, like was often left to the man. And so when you divide up the labor at home, a woman can reclaim her unicorn space.
Wow.
But when I hear you talk about this, I also hear all these themes of like creativity, exploration, and curiosity in your own story. Did you discover anything about yourself while you wrote it?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I discovered that like, I don't know that I would have identified myself as a creative. I knew that was one of the things that most attracted me to my role in news. Like I've always loved being in the edit booth. That's one of my favorite things, is like watching the visuals of a piece come together. I'm like an avid NPR listener. I listen to Morning Edition, Steve Inskeep, every single morning. But the thing that I love about my role is like the way that, to me, images are so egalitarian. Like if you are blind, if you are somewhere part of the world, like you can, blind, I guess I was like, if you are, even if you are like hearing impaired, you can watch these images with the subtitles and you can be, some part of the world and you can have access to this storytelling. And that's something that I've just always loved. And I don't think I knew that like how fundamental that was. And the writing of it was a clear indication that like, no, you are creative and you need a creative life to tap into that purpose. And I read somewhere, like probably on an Instagram meme or something, it said like writers give life shape. Oh. And I think that's what I did. I was giving my life shape. And fiction can do that in a unique way that like journalism can't. Journalism, I can give you truth, but I can't attach meaning. That is not my role. My role is not to grant you meaning. And I don't think that should be my role. I can give you context, I can give you history, and I can give you data, but I should not be giving you meaning. That's for you. But in fiction, in art, I can communicate meaning, sometimes meaning that feels more real and more honest to the event itself. And that, I think, I discovered in, for me, the most beautiful way.
You are such a wordsmith, and like this idea of the vestiges of love is just going to live in my romantic brain.
You see, you probably have vestiges of love living in your heart,
Oh.
And how do we deal with that as like married women, right? Like it's an interesting space.
I mean, this is a ripe topic, and Jeana and I love to talk about exes, closure, past relationships, how they shape and form you. Closure. Oh, what a concept.
For you, okay? For you and you.
Oh, this book is totally for me. I also, did you feel, I mean, don't we always want to be the narrator of our own story? And don't we wish we could play God a little bit and move some pieces around the board? Was there something really deeply satisfying or eye-opening about getting to narrate, shape, and change your story?
I think so. I think it was deeply sad. I think it landed in truth. I think, like, unsurprisingly, the journalist still popped out. It landed in truth. Like, you'll read, and one thing I did that I was not sure if my editor was going to allow, but she just wrote me recently, was like, loved it. I, like, in the end, and I've never seen it done before, so I don't, like, know if it's a thing, but I finished the book. And I think, like, I like books that give us closure. Like, I don't like too many open questions. But there was, like, a nod to something, to a conclusion in the end that was pretty clear. But maybe explaining the why. And so at the end of the book, instead of, like, the acknowledgments, I wrote a letter to my daughter. And in that letter, if you're listening, if you're paying attention, and certainly if you know me, that letter is an answer to all the whys that you would still have at the end of the book. It is the clearest indicator of why the protagonist made the decision she made in the end. And I think that was deeply satisfying. So it's like, was it surprising? Maybe no, because I ended up here. But how you, like, give that meaning shape, and how you give that meaning words. And I think a love letter to, like, all our younger selves, right? All the things that, like, we wish we knew when we were young, and, like, figuring it out. And yeah.
Now then, May 2026, and I believe Spanish edition, September 2026.
You're good.
Oh, I am. I mean, my sister speaks fluent Spanish, so she might read that version, but I am, like, bookmarking May. I think this is going to be a captivating read.
Yeah.
We're going to read this for the Sweat Life Book Club too. Rischall, I know we could talk to Morgan for a million billion years, yes, but should we have a connection conversation? We should.
We should.
Okay, Rachel, we are obsessed. Rachel and Morgan, but Morgan, we are obsessed with connections, with friendship. So we're going to ask you a couple quick questions about connections. Can you tell us about the last connection you made? And it can be someone who changed your life, changed the way you thought, or just, like you bumped into on the street.
Man, you were hitting me with these very timely questions. Like, this is like This is in the stars. Yesterday, I would call it a reconnection. I reconnected with a friend who our friendship sort of fizzled, which is, like, I think one of the hard. I think friendship fizzling is, like, harder to break up personally.
Agree.
He was one of my closest friends, and he asked if he was in town, and he asked if he could meet me, and he had done something that kind of, like, dropped our friendship ball, and it wasn't awesome. And he apologized. And I thought that was so, like, powerful and courageous. And I'm a little awkward. So I was like, dude, you don't have to apologize. It's fine. Everybody's fine. Everybody, I love you. It's all great. Love is love. But, like, he that was important to him. And it was important to me. I just didn't want him to, like, self, incriminate and my point was, like, hey man, this is life. We all mess up. And sometimes, like, I'm sure I've been the perpetrator, of a similar thing in a similar time, in a different time and place. And that was really meaningful to me. That was a good reconnection.
Oh, that's so special and very generous of you to sort of deflect the apology. But I do feel like apologies serve two people, the person who needs to give it and the person who needs to receive it. And then you can heal and move forward. And maybe you're a bigger person than I am, but if something has been unresolved that feels like a friendship ball was dropped, that apology carries a lot of water.
It does. And I think I heard, like, Brene Brown say once, like,
we love Brene.
She's a legend. Yeah. But she was like, apologies make you feel safe. Like, you can trust the relationship again. And I definitely believe in that. And also, like, it did do things for two people. I learned something. He was so gracious. He was so gracious in just absorbing it and receiving it. Like, he didn't deflect. He didn't deny. He was like, I did that. He was like, and I knew when I did that, it was probably the final straw. I was like, yeah, I was just, like, investing a lot in this friendship and relationship. And I thought we were bonded from this tribe of, like, curious people, and to see you sort of, like, opt out, whether intentionally. And I was like, and that's just my opinion. Like, I don't know if that's even true or fact. Like, that's just my perspective. And I hold that opinion lightly. My mom always taught me, like, you never close the door. Like, you always leave it partially open, and like, you hold your opinions lightly, and you don't move through life in permanence. Like, that's just not the way, that's not the right, again, like, countenance to, like, approach the world. And so it's like, hey man, it sucked for a while between us, but, like, I never thought that was, like, one of my stage managers from work is building me an amazing built-in closet. God bless him.
Get that closet.
Yeah.
Like extra gifts. I like saw him one day. I'm like, is that? I saw his Facebook that he like built. He like millwork, and I was like, is this you? Can you come back? Like, I will pay you. Bless his heart. So, yeah. I think it's like really awesome. It was great. It was sweet. It was awesome.
Oh, I love to hear that. I joke with Jeana that I call it my Hotel California, that once I really like you, you can never leave and you always have a room. And it doesn't matter if we haven't talked for 20 years, you can come back in.
I love it. That's how it should be.
Yes. Oh, but apologies, a good component when need be. Okay, second question. What advice would you give for your younger self about connection?
Don't be afraid of it. I think because I always like lead with sincerity. I like when you were talking about Rischall, the PR dynamic and how so much of it is transactional. That transaction has always scared me. And I think I'm a notoriously bad networker because like I really do love people and I organically like just want to know more and share more. And like that feels like a very earnest connection.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I don't do well at the like, I should get a coffee on this like manager's calendar every 3 months because it just feels awkward to me. I'm like, oh my God, they don't want like I don't want to like waste their time. Little old me, they're so busy. And I think I wish I had learned that younger that like maybe that manager wants to be connected with, right? Like maybe there's something that you can offer them and not sort of have a feeling small or shy or, you know, and certainly I think the thought of like hard work is going to kind of just win the day. And obviously now we know that hard work doesn't just win the day, that it's also this constellation of like, you know, connecting and making managers and peers feel connected and seen and comfortable, like, right. Like it's all these things. And I wish I hadn't been afraid. And I still think I'm teaching myself in some ways because I still am like shy, like despite like when I'm in my studio doing my thing, it's great. But like when I go to these like cocktail parties, oh my God. I like my mother-in-law, oh my God. I get so like shy, you know, and like I really want a buddy and I want to like, hi, I'm Morgan, you know? And so I think I wish I could tell my younger self to like just be bolder and like get the coffee and see what happens, you know?
I love that advice.
Yeah, it's like the assuming of positive intent too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Morgan, you have met a lot of people, but we're so curious if there's anyone out there who you haven't met who would be a dream connection.
Anyone out there who I haven't met who would be a dream connection? I would say, wait, where did you go? Your thing. I would say Ava DuVernay. Like, I think when we talk about people who live really dynamic lives and give life shape and are storytellers using all the mediums and like tell stories that matter and say something, whether that's about the Central Park Five or about, you know, Black families living in the Delta, like I think, or Selma, I mean, like name it, right? Like all these important moments and cultural conversations. She's someone who I think has like a gift in an almost prophetic way of bringing stories to life. Yeah, she'd be my number one.
I think you should interview her. It feels attainable to me. Yes.
I'd love to. Make the connection, Rischall. Get me the connection code to meeting Ava DuVernay.
First, I'm going to work on this play date for your daughter, and then I'll ladder up to Ava. One at a time. We got this.
I love it.
Oh, Morgan, thank you so much. I told Jeana that this was going to be a good one, and this was a great one. You are dynamite. I could listen to you truly every single day and feel like I'd glean new things from you. So thank you for being a light and a source of energy.
I do a new show. Come join me. 12-2 on NBC, okay? Wherever you stream or on the old school dial-up TV, okay? All the places.
Yes, and where should we find you?
Thank you.
Those places. You can literally find me on NBC on your affiliate station or online.
And Instagram.
Oh, on Instagram. Yeah. Morgan K. Radford. All the places. I'm a storyteller. I love to connect. Connect with me.
Thank you so much, Morgan. This was a true delight.
I really appreciate it, Jeana. Thank you, Rischall. I'm so glad you connected and that we got to do this. This was really a gift to me. So thank you.
Thank you for saying yes. Say hi to Nancy for us.
I will.
Rischall, can we, I don't know. how we just start a club to maybe a fan club for Morgan. I don't know. I
would.
need more Morgan in my life. I guess I can just watch her on the news.
I mean, when you have an instinct about somebody, I was like, oh, I feel like
Yeah.
we'll have a really good, interesting conversation. But I didn't expect both of us to cry, which is a first. And
Simultaneous cry as well.
Yes, a simultaneous cry. I agree. She is just a really deep, interesting, real person that I feel so lucky that we got that time with her.
And a beautiful intensity about her too. Like, I think oftentimes you hear women described as intense and it's like not a compliment. And I think she's intense in the most complimentary way, because it's like when her gaze is fixed on you, you are lucky to have that, the intensity of like her intelligence and her admiration and like whatever is going to come out of her mouth next. You're very lucky. Like I love how intense and intelligent and like just she's great. Like what a good get, Rischall.
Oh, thank you. I can tell what a wonderful mom she is. I bet she's like the best friend to have, a very fun hang, a great colleague, all the things. And I also really appreciate when people tell you what's sort of really going on or are able to pull back the curtain a little bit and be like, sometimes hard things happen too, even if I am stunningly beautiful and successful and look like all things are perfect. Like there's always room for moments where people feel disappointment or have to recalibrate a little bit emotionally. So thank you, Morgan. That was amazing.
Yeah. I guess we should have some show and tell. How do we even turn left after a Morgan interview? Let's do some show and tell.
Yes. Well, you teased earlier to me offline a unicorn. So say more.
Okay, so I brought, and I mentioned it in the intro too, I brought Eve Rodsky's book, Fair Play, or not Fair Play. I brought her book, Find Your Unicorn Space. So Eve also wrote the book Fair Play, which was in Reese's book club, probably in like 2020. And just an amazing example of the division of labor at home. Just giving couples systems to help them actually like stack the deck and think about invisible labor in really interesting ways. And then she came out with Find Your Unicorn Space, which is really the result of her going through the exercise of seeing all of the things that she and her partner own and do at home. And then when they recalibrated who was doing what, she had this space for creative pursuits, which often are left for men or the partner who's not bearing children in a lot of relationships. So it's this really beautiful thing where she encourages people in the book to find the unicorn space and carve it out and put it in your calendar. I literally was for a while putting in my calendar unicorn space, and it would be like 45-minute, 90-minute blocks of time to just do something creative to put out into the world.
Oh, I love that. I think unicorn space is also a fun, whimsical way to allocate that time, to say it gets to be maybe silly or imaginative or very play-based, because that's the whole point of it.
Yep. I mean, I love her. I would follow her anywhere. Eve, start a cult.
Yes, my book club read Fair Play, and I think it is an incredibly instructive book, which most married couples should spend some time with.
Yeah. Maybe if
we try to ask Eve
to go. Yeah, we should maybe.
Eve, we're coming for you.
Eve, we'd love to meet you. Rischall, what'd you bring for show and tell?
Admittedly, I had never listened to Call Her Daddy, but I saw that Shonda Rhimes was on as a guest, and I really like Shonda Rhimes and actually heard her speak recently in Chicago. And I thought, I'm curious what she would say on this podcast compared to what she said in front of an auditorium of fans. And it was a really loose, open, revealing interview. And one of the things that I kind of got hung up on is that Shonda was talking about that there are friends that exist who really show up for you when things are going terribly. And so you can count on them when you're down and life isn't treating you well. And they're like this really amazing backbone and support system. However, when she started to go through her year of yes journey, which formed the basis of her book, and she was like really embracing life and growing and evolving and becoming happier, some of those friends were not able to adjust with her. And she actually had to go through some pretty uncomfortable friend transitions as these relationships really didn't know how to be with Shonda in her new iteration. And I was like, this is just something to kind of marinate on. It's like, you only want to have the friends, I think, that can be with the fullness of you. When things are awful, you want them to support you. When things are wonderful, you want them to cheerlead for you. And you have to do the same for them. But it was something to think about, like, connection has to span all the stages of your life. You don't just want the friends that are like really in your corner when you're down. And so I applauded her for doing her work and figuring out and finding her people. But I thought it was really illuminating of who is there for you, not only when you're low, but also when you're high.
I think well, first of all, that's really interesting. I think that's one thing Alex Cooper does really well on her podcast is she does like give space for people to have conversations like they haven't had on a panel or in a keynote. So it's not super surprising that Shonda shared something new. And Rachel, have you ever experienced that where you've sort of like gone through a season of like sunshine and you lost people to the sunshine?
Oh, that's a really good question. No, but I do think, and maybe maybe that a lot of people feel this way. I'm not sure. I want to know if you do. That if you have a really good streak of life and there are friends of yours that you know are going through something hard or like your seasons are not matching up, there's kind of a desire to either downplay or not shine a light on what's going well with you because you don't want them to feel badly by comparison. So it's not that they don't care about it or wouldn't celebrate you, but it's almost like you're preemptively trying to prevent them from feeling uncomfortable, feeling envy, feeling less than. You're looking at me like, no, Rachel, that's not something people do.
I'm processing it because I actually think that's more true than anything because I think you found it. I think you found the insight. Like, because I think what happens is the same as when you're going through something hard, you think like, oh, this is hard. I wouldn't want to bring them down. And if you're having like a great season of your life, oh, things are just so great, I don't want them to feel bad. And I think you sort of have this dichotomy, like whether things are good or whether things are bad, like just share it because the right friends will say hell yes or what do you need? And I think it's sort of like this, we're like politing each other out of friendship.
And is it also like a human instinct though that you reach for people when things are hard more than you reach for them when things are going really well? Right. I mean, if I got along with my kids all day long, I don't need to pick up the phone and call a girlfriend who has middle schoolers and be like, I had the best day with the twins. But you'd better believe when I lose my mind and say things I regret that I need to reach out to somebody and be like, am I the worst parent in the world? Has this ever happened to you? Have you also mentioned boarding school and then you had to take it back? So I think that part of it is that maybe there's like some psychology involved in this. Like we need people more when it's hard, but to wrap a bow around it, I thought it was very interesting to hear Shonda say that like she kind of had to recognize that some of her friends were only there for the rain, but they weren't there for the sun.
Yeah. I wonder though, Rachel, okay, not to like push you on this. I wonder what would happen if you did say like, holy shit, I had a great day with the twins. Like what would happen? Would you notice it more? Would your friends be like, wow, it can happen. Oh my God. I wonder. We don't know the answer, but I wonder.
I think that's where family comes in a little bit more. I might not feel amazing if a friend of mine called me and was like, I had the best day with my 12-year-old. I'd be like, oh, why? Oh, what am I doing? But I want my sister to call me and say, I had such a good day with the girls. Like everything just worked. And so there's a lot of nuance there. I think that relationships are not uniform and you have to figure out the pockets and places where you share what.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
what about you?
Well, I think there are people who if you're like, things are going so well I mean, same thing. Like, the people you can turn to and be like, I can't believe it. I'm so happy. Things are great. But then, there are also people who, like, if you're talking to them, you want to be like, things are great, but like, who knows when things could go bad again? Like, you sort of find yourself like ending sentences that way, and you're like, why? Why? It is really interesting because you do find yourself like, I wonder if men have this problem. What do you think?
I wonder too. I mean, my husband's starting a new job tomorrow. And
congrats, Ruben.
I've noticed, I'm excited for him. And I feel like I've noticed a couple of his friends that I've crossed paths with being like, I'm really happy for Ruben. It's really great. I'm excited for him. And so I'm seeing some of his community display that they're really glad this is happening. And I think that's really sweet. I think if something's hard won and people know, like whether it's a fitness journey or a job search or just like, or publishing a book, I mean, anything where somebody had to really try, that's where friends absolutely need to cheerlead and be glad.
Yeah.
Like if somebody's life is an award show montage, that's different, but regular life here.
Yeah. The whole time you were talking about that, Rischall, I was like picturing Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
I was in that musical in 6th grade. I was an extra because I can't sing or dance. Or act.
Well, Joseph like goes to all of his siblings and he's like, look at this coat. Look, oh my God, aren't I lucky? Dad chose me.
And what happens to Joseph?
And what happened to Joseph?
Yeah,
he gets thrown into a well.
You know what? There is a little bit of a tough lesson in that. Nobody likes the braggart.
Nobody likes a braggart.
But also
things
the
turn out
siblings
for Joseph.
And then he displays a lot of emotional maturity and forgiveness at the end.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
It all works out.
Well, this has been another episode of The Connection Code, a podcast about friends, connection, work, and everything in between. This is a production by two friends who are having a giggle fit, Rachel Gillman Rischall and Jeana Anderson Cohen. You can follow us on all the socials using our full name. We like LinkedIn and Instagram. You can message us there. If you want to tell us a thought on the podcast or a guest we should host, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you to Morgan for being on the show today. We absolutely loved having you. And thank you to Ben Cleaver for editing this podcast.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Shira.